Okay, so you enter the dungeon. What do you do?
We search the room.
Cool. Roll investigation.
Sure. That's 11 plus 3, 14.
You don't find anything. What do you do next?
Oh, I guess we go down the hallway.
All right. You walk down the hallway. It's dark. What do you do?
We keep going.
Sure, you reach a door. What do you do?
We open it.
You see the problem, right? This is an exploration.
This is the DM asking, what do you do or repeat, while the players throw out random actions hoping something sticks.
There's no structure, there's no stakes, there's no game. It's just vibes and dice rolls that don't seem to matter.
And here's the thing, it didn't used to be this way.
Ciao! Welcome to Cantrip.
My name is Simo.
And my name is Diego. And we need to talk about why dungeon exploration in modern D&D feels so hollow. Because there is a mechanic from old school D&D that completely fixes this problem, and almost nobody uses it anymore. It's called the 10-minute turn.
And before you click away thinking this is some nostalgic OSR rant about how things were better in 1974, it's not. We are not here to tell you the old ways are superior. We are here to tell you that this specific mechanics solves a specific problem that 5e has. Exploration isn't a game. And once you add this back in, everything clicks.
But first, let's talk about what happened, because understanding why we lost this system helps explain why we need it back. In original D&D, in Basic Expert, in AD&D First Edition, dungeon crawling had structure. You track time in 10-minute increments. Every action took a turn. Light was a resource that ran out. Monsters wandered. Resting had consequences. It was a mini-game with rules, risks, and meaningful choices.
And then, edition by edition, it got stripped away. Second edition kept it, but nobody used it. Third edition buried it. Fourth edition didn't even mention exploration procedures. And 5e just says, figure it out, and hopes you roll some skill checks and call it a day.
The goal was accessibility, faster play, more narrative focus, and for a lot of tables, that worked. But for dungeon crawls, especially big ones, mega dungeons, places your party will explore over multiple sessions, it created a void. Because without structure, exploration becomes arbitrary. The GM decides when things happen, the players react. That's not a game, that's just improv with dice.
So we brought the 10 minutes turn back, and it changed everything. And hey, real quick, if you are curious where this is going, drop a like on the video and hit subscribe. This is the kind of deep dive mechanics content we love making, and it really helps us keep doing it.
Alright, so what is a 10-minute turn? Simple. When you're in a dungeon, time is tracked in 10-minute chunks. Each turn, the party does one thing: move through corridors, search a room, listen at a door, pick a lock, rest. One action, one turn, 10 minutes. And that might sound tedious, but stick with us. Because once you start tracking time this way, everything else in the dungeon falls into place. Suddenly, you're not just wandering around waiting for the GM to throw encounters at you. You're managing resources, you're making trade-offs, you're playing a game. Here's how it works. Each turn, the party can move about 30 meters or 120 feet while being careful, mapping, checking for traps, staying quiet. Or they can move up to 600 feet if they rush. But rushing means they might miss secret doors, trigger traps, or alert nearby monsters. Speed versus caution, risk versus reward. That's a choice. Searching an area, you roll your investigation or perception. But here's the key. If you fail, you can spend a full turn and automatically succeed. Time solves problems, but time isn't free. Forcing open a stuck door? Same deal. Roll strength. Fail? Spend a turn. Succeed automatically. You can brute force almost anything by spending time, but spending time has consequences, and this is where the system gets brilliant. Because every turn you spend, the dungeon gets more dangerous. Dangerous!
Let's talk about those consequences. First, and this is the most important one, wandering monsters. Every hour you roll for wandering monsters. That's every 6 turns. Usually it's a 1 in 6 chance, Roll a 1, something shows up. Maybe it's hostile, maybe it's just passing through. Either way, it's an encounter you didn't plan for, and it's happening because you lingered too long. If you make noise, fighting, smashing doors, casting loud spells, the probability goes up. 2 in 6, 3 in 6, suddenly every loud action is a gamble. Do we kick down this door and risk summoning off the dungeon? Or do we spend a turn picking the lock quietly? This is the core tension. The longer you stay, the more dangerous it gets. Searching every room thoroughly, that's more wandering monster rolls. Moving fast and skipping stuff, fewer rolls, but you might miss treasure or walk into a trap you could have found. Every decision is a trade-off. Speed versus thoroughness, safety versus reward. And trade-offs are what make games interesting.
Interesting.
Now, you've probably noticed something. We've been saying every hour and every 6 turns. That's because you have to rest. After 5 turns, 50 minutes, your characters are tired from all that tension and exploration. If you don't take a turn to rest, you start taking cumulative penalties. -1 to attack rolls, -1 to damage, and it stacks. 2 hours without rest, that's -2. 3 hours, -3. Eventually, you're so fatigued you can barely function.
And I show you're fatigued.
So you have to rest. 1 turn every hour. That's mandatory. And that turn counts toward your wandering monster rolls. You're not just sitting there recovering, you're rolling the dice on whether something finds you.
And where you rest matters. Resting in a hallway, you're exposed. Resting in a cleared room, safer but still risky. Resting near a known monster lair? You're insane! We've house ruled that if you spend a turn securing an area, barricading doors, setting up alarms, making it defensible, you only roll once for wandering monsters during a short rest instead of every turn. But you have to spend the time up front. That's the trade. Long rests are even worse. 8 hours, that's 48 turns. 48 chances for something to wander in and murder you in your sleep. Murder. You cannot take a long rest in a dungeon unless you made it incredibly safe. Or unless you find a haven, a magically worded room, a hidden sanctuary, a safe zone built into the dungeon. These are rare. Finding one feels like striking gold because it means you can push deeper without retreating to town.
Some of you might be thinking, wait, doesn't this make dungeon impossible? And the answer is nope. It makes them challenging. It makes them a puzzle. How deep can we go before we have to turn back? What can we accomplish before our resources run out? Those are the questions that make dungeon crawling fun. But let's keep going, because there's more. Light is a resource. Torches burn out after 6 turns. Lantern lasts 24 turns but consume oil. Every turn that passes, your light is dying. And when it dies, you're in the dark.
I'm in the dark here!
And when it dies, you're in the dark. In a dungeon with monsters. Suddenly, light isn't just a flavor, it's a countdown. Do we search every nook and cranny and risk running out of light? Or do we move quickly and hope we don't miss anything critical? Spells have weight. Detect magic lasts 10 minutes, 1 turn. Light lasts several turns, but not forever. These durations aren't arbitrary. They were designed for the 10-minute turn. Cast Detect Magic, you've got 1 turn to sweep a room. That's it. You have to decide when and where to use your limited spell slots, because they are not infinite.
And then there's the map. If someone in your party is acting as the mapper, drawing the dungeon on graph paper as you explore, that character has both hands occupied. No shield, no two-handed weapon, just a map and a pencil. And if that character dies or gets separated from the group, or the map gets destroyed by fire or acid, it's gone. You lose the map. You might even get lost in the dungeon, wandering in circles, burning through resources while you try to find your way back. We've had sessions where the party's mapper got caught in a trap and the map burned. They spent the next hour trying to retrace their steps, rolling to see if they recognized landmarks, slowly piecing together where they were. It was tense, it was frustrating. it was amazing.
This is what we mean when we say the 10 minutes turn makes exploration a game. It's not just moving through space and rolling investigation, it's resource management, it's risk assessment, it's constantly making decisions with incomplete information and real consequences.
And it gets even better when you add environmental pressure. We run a dungeon called the Sunken Crypts of Vilmar. The water level rose every hour. After 6 hours, the lower levels would be completely flooded. The party had to balance exploration with survival, and every hour they heard water rushing through distant corridors, cutting off entire sections of the dungeon. At Hour 4, they had a choice: push deeper toward the boss or turn back. They pushed. At Hour 5, they were fighting the final encounter in ankle-deep water that was rising every round. One of our players, Filippo, playing a dwarf cleric, almost drowned going back for a magic item. He made it, but barely, and he still talks about that session like it was the most stressful thing he's ever done in D&D.
Or the Forge of the Iron King, where a lich was performing a 10-hour ritual to animate an army of constructs. The party had to choose, explore thoroughly and arrive too late, or rush forward under-equipped. They chose speed, skipped entire session, and reached the lich at Hour 8. 2 characters died in that fight, but they stopped the ritual. The victory felt desperate and earned. That's what environmental timers do. They stack on top of wandering monsters, exhaustion, dwindling light. And when all those pressures combine, dungeon crawling becomes about survival, not just exploration.
Now, some of you are probably thinking, doesn't this slow everything down? Doesn't it turn dungeon crawling into tedious bookkeeping? Yep, it can, if you do it badly. If the DM is constantly stopping to count turns and consult charts, it will drag. But if you keep it simple, mark off turns on scrap paper, describe things cinematically, it flows naturally. It becomes part of the rhythm of play.
And honestly, we found that players love it, because suddenly they're not passive. They're not just waiting for the GM to tell them what happens. They're making choices. Do we search or move? Do we rest here or push on? Do we fight or sneak? Do we go left toward the floating corridor or right toward the noise we just heard? Those are real decisions with real stakes. And that's what makes dungeons fun.
So that's the 10-minute turn, a forgotten mechanic from old school D&D that deserves to come back. Because it turns dungeon exploration from shapeless improv into an actual game with structure, stakes and meaningful choices.
If you're planning a dungeon crawl, especially a big one, try this. Track time in turns, make light a resource. Roll for wandering monsters, make resting risky. Add environmental pressure, give your players roles. Make them choose between speed and caution, between thorough exploration and survival.
And watch what happens. Your dungeon will feel alive, dangerous, like a place that exists whether the players are there or not. And your players will stop asking what do we do, because they'll already know. They'll be too busy managing their dwindling torches, arguing about whether to rest now or push forward one more room, and praying they don't roll a 1 on the next wandering monster check.
That's dungeon crawling. That's what it's supposed to feel like. Now tell us, have any of you tried something like this at your table? Have you experimented with the tracking time more strictly, or with environmental pressure, or with any of these mechanics? We'd love to hear about it. Drop your stories in the comments.
Tell us what worked, what didn't, what you do differently. Because honestly, we are still figuring this out too. We are testing and tweaking and learning as we go. And hearing what works at other tables helps us improve our own games.
That's all for today's video. We must say goodbye now, because you know what they say about Italian cuisine? We are going to light the coals and cook arrosticini, our favorite meal pre-session. Until next time, keep rolling. Thanks for watching!